Welcome back to the Book Witches, everybody.
Hello.
It's been a little minute.
I know it has. We're getting back into it. Don't worry, guys.
We had a nice long break for the holidays. Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes, and happy Yuletide as well.
Happy Yuletide, yes. Belated, but I still have my Yule tree up, so no shame there.
Yeah.
Today's episode, we are excited because we're finally doing a different book. We completed the Court series by Sarah J. Maas, and we're getting into a spookier, complex, long, weird one, House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. Before we get into it, why don't we do our just a little grounding ritual, little opening to kind of set the mood and come into the space together. So,
right.
If you will.
Go ahead, get comfortable, put your feet on the floor, maybe grab a favorite drink or snack, some tea, coffee, some water, whatever feels good for you.
And if it feels okay, you can gently close your eyes or just soften your gaze. Let's take one slow breath in through the nose and a long exhale out through the mouth.
Let's do that one more time, inhaling slowly. And exhaling, letting your shoulders drop, unclenching your jaw, and arriving fully here.
All right. Well, and if you'd like, you can set an intention for this hour, maybe curiosity, openness, or just letting yourself be present without needing to understand everything. That's always wonderful, too.
Mm-hmm. Especially today.
Especially today. All right. Well, let's get it started. So we'll start by just doing a little plot summary just to kind of give our audience an idea of what this book is about. This tome of a book, a very large and in charge book.
Bruh.
This is not for the faint of heart. Let's already just put that disclaimer out there. This is a good, hefty, over 600-page book. And it's not an easy straight read either. All right? It's it's different. All right? So
let's interesting and different and unique.
So just to give a little bit of a background, it's a layered, fragmented novel, and it's told through multiple unreliable narrators. So that's really what makes it interesting, that there's multiple people contributing to this story. And it's a book that includes footnotes, inside footnotes, and like a shifting typography. And so at its core, it's essentially about a house that is impossibly larger on the inside than it is on the outside. And it is a horror book. It is considered a spooky book. It's a scary book. But the real horror is how that impossibly fractures or breaks the people that encounter this house. So
right.
I think
technically it's considered a metafiction. So it's like we're reading a book like within a book, and that there's like all these different layers.
Yeah, it's definitely a book where you have to kind of stay on point, so to speak. Like, it definitely holds your attention, and it's not an easy read. This is not a beach read, people.
No.
This is one of those books where you have to really pay attention. It's a good book to read when you're a little bit more alert. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. You have to like set some time aside to be like, okay, I'm going to read these chapters.
So just before we get into all of the details of it, Inez, what did you think? Did you hate it? Did you love it?
Yeah, I did not hate the book. It was hard for me. The first half, I was just like, good Lord. Okay, let's keep going. It's like, let's just go. But there's a certain point where I'm finally like, when the action starts, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is awesome. Like, this is so cool. It's complicated.
I'm gonna admit, and this is, my pretentious side coming out, I'm like definitely a slut for complexity. And so like when the when the book started, I was like, oh my God, this is just so interesting. And so, but I admit, it is very pretentious. It's kind of like a pseudo intellectual vomit.
You're the English major here, so you definitely enjoyed it more than me. I'm visual.
Funny. We were like messaging each other, and you're like, "What is this book?"
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, this was a book too. Just to give y'all background, I had bought it when I was on one of my. I want to say it was actually on my honeymoon. And we went to a bookstore in Santa Cruz, California, and it was on one of those recommended tables. Like the bookseller recommended it, and I just caught my eye because the last name of the author is Polish, so of course that caught my eye at first. And then I started flipping through it and saw just how weird the book is itself, and I'll kind of show it on camera just a little bit, and Inez, feel free as well.
Right, because like I'm a visual artist, so like when I'm seeing all these like different visualizations, like I'm like, hell yeah. Some pages are just blank.
Yeah, some pages are literally have like one word or
right.
Just there's different fonts happening.
You read it sideways.
Yeah, sometimes you're just like going like this as you're reading it, like
right.
Turning it upside down. It's
that's my favorite part about this book, like the immersiveness.
That's true. It is very immersive. It's definitely not one that I've never read a book like this before.
I know. I only see it in like children's books where it's like, oh, and he went down the slide, wee. But I'm like, give me an adult book like that. Come on.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of like do you remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books?
Right. Yeah.
I used to love Goosebumps when I was like in second grade, and they had a bunch of those where you'd be like, if you want this to happen, go to page 42. If you want this to happen, go to page 68 or something, that's really fun.
Yeah. It's more linear than that, but the fact that like you get to flip around and learn more about the characters is so fun.
The characters are great. Especially the main narrator, who we'll learn about in a bit. And so it's safe to say from my end that I really fell in love with it by the end. I mean, like when I finished it, I was like, this is a masterpiece. And it's not a surprise. We learned and found this out later that this is actually a book that's commonly studied like in graduate school, or also like for English majors, they teach it, which I was really surprised about. And the author himself, he's a Yale graduate, so, he's definitely earned his, his keep in the literary world, so to speak. So, yeah, why don't we get into kind of the structure, who the narrators are, what's really going on. So the book itself is layered. We have essentially 3 sources that are coming throughout the book. First, we have the first narrator, Johnny Truant. He is ends up being the main narrator of the book. Then we have someone called Zampano. And then we have the Navidson, right? We said Navidson record, which it's written kind of... Well, it's the documentary kind of. So it's almost as if there was like a documentary made about this house and the experiences of this house. So it refuses to give you a stable ground to stand on, essentially. And so, like Inez said, that's really what felt immersive about the book. It is confusing as you start it, especially because Zampano, who is kind of the original compiler of this.
Right, like the Navidson record is the book within the book, and then Zampano created that book. No, he didn't create it, but he's like, he put it together.
And he created all the footnotes.
Right. And then Johnny Truant, the main orator, finds the book within his own story. And that's how we're reading it. So there's these 3 major layers.
So how the book essentially starts is through the eyes of Johnny Truant. He's a tattoo shop apprentice in Los Angeles. And so that away was kind of, that was kind of fun, you know, because I live in LA. Inez grew up in LA, and it was very familiar. I think a lot of the cultural references and just kind of the feel of him as a character for me was like, this is really real, you know. This
the
is
griminess, the like city life, for real.
Super LA. So if you're into LA, you'll like that part of it. And so Johnny claims that he finds a manuscript in the apartment of a recently deceased blind old man named Zampano. And so he's a tenant in the same building that Johnny lives in. And so Johnny decides to organize, edit, and annotate this manuscript that he finds. It's like a really mysterious kind of book, and he's, you know, trying to figure out what it's all about.
Because how Zampano is found dead is like kind of crazy. There's like claw marks in his floor. This place is like, his fridge is like filled with books. It's like really weird, kind of like his mental insanity, I don't know, is what killed him. But then there's like hints of this physical thing, and so what Johnny's intrigued, and he's like, okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. That's true. It's a very gruesome scene. And it's mysterious how he dies. We don't really understand, but it looks almost like it's a homicide of some sort, or
right.
It doesn't seem like it's a suicide, or natural causes. Even
that's
though
what
he's an old man.
They claimed it as that.
Right. What essentially starts to happen is that as Johnny works on this manuscript and as he gets through it and reads through it, he starts to experience things in his own life that start affecting him very negatively. And so before we get into kind of the nitty-gritty of all that, do you want to kind of talk about Zampano a little bit?
Yeah.
And like what he contributes?
Right. So Zampano is the author, like the main author of the records. His manuscripts is like dense academic analyzation of the documentary film called The Navidson Record. A film that might not actually exist. It's kind
That's
of
like the question, right? That's like,
right.
Is this a real movie? Is this not a real movie?
Right, because it's like written as this manuscript, but it's hinted throughout the book, like maybe, maybe not. So Zampano is blind, yet somehow analyzes the visual media in like extreme detail. He Johnny finds out Zampano like would invite people, or people who would like pity him would come over and like read or like write for him for the records. He writes in this scholarly style with citation, critiques, and essays. And is obsessed with interpreting the film and the house and its documents.
Obsessed. Triple underlined.
Very academic, too. I want to underline that.
That's what we were, kind of mentioning the pseudo. And I say pseudo-intellectual because, I mean, there's
it's right up front.
The footnotes are clearly referencing real things, like real classical works of art, of literature, of movies, books.
Right. Poetry, like...
Very complex, though.
Mythology.
Like, and you're just like, how does this guy know all of this? It's like he's a walking encyclopedia.
Right. So, like, ultimately, his work is unfinished. Like, it's still working and is filled with, like, crossed out sections, like, gaps and, like, contradictions that Johnny has to, like, salvage, like, a group of papers inked out. And he's like, okay, this is part, I can kind of interpret it, and, like, puts it together like that. But Zampano, the original author, is very intellectual. Very. He likes to set up the scene very thoroughly, almost unnecessarily thoroughly, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that's almost kind of the point, too. That's kind of, because the book itself, I think that as you start getting into it, you almost start to realize, like, the point is to confuse you.
But I wasn't confused. It was more after I finished it, I was like, okay, this is almost like Moby Dick, where he kind of writes it really boring to give you a sense of what it is to be a whaler and to be on the boat, and like days go on and it's like, okay, but there's a chapter where he like explains echolocation and the specific hertz of bats larynx to determine all of that, and I'm like, great, beautiful, let's get to the action, thank you. And it's relevant, like all of what he's saying is relevant. Obviously it's setting up for like experiencing echolocation in like a huge room, right? Like did you notice yourself like starting to be super aware of like how your spatial awareness or anything after reading it?
That's really interesting. I don't think I did, and I'll be honest, I think there were times where I started almost skimming over some of those footnotes. Like even myself, I mean, I thought it was brilliant, but I'm like, damn. It does feel like reading an encyclopedia.
Right, yeah.
In the beginning. That's also, I think the lack of clarity kind of made the book feel more alive to me. And it, once again, to me, the confusion of it and the convolutedness of it really contributes to how you keep questioning things within the book over and over. You keep questioning the narrators, whether things exist or not. And I think that's part of it. That's really part of it. Because the house is a changing, it's a live thing.
In retrospect, I understand it now. But so, let's get into like the house itself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Conceptually, I love the idea of the house like being bigger on the inside than outside. It like brings this esoteric idea of that's like weird and like in the third dimension, but also it disturbs this homely, like mundane day to day. And you see that through the family, through the Navison records. The family's interaction with each other is like disturbed.
It's really sets the stage for how unsettling all of this is, because like we find out in the beginning how, you know, so just to give a little, because we didn't mention the Navison record.
Right.
Which once again, that's the third layer of the book. And so this, as Zena has mentioned, it's the book within the book. So at the heart of the book is the Navitson record. It follows somebody named Will Navitson, and he's a Pulitzer-winning photojournalist. And it follows him and his family. They decide to essentially move to a house in rural Virginia, and they do it because they all want to reconnect with each other. So he's there with his wife. Her name is Karen Green. She has a deep fear of enclosed spaces. She's kind of a neurotic, anxious type. And they have 2 kids. And then later on we meet Will's twin brother, Tom. But Will is kind of who we love. And so Will is like the main, he's like the artist. He has a vision, you know, he's known for these photographs that he captures. And so he's not there to work at first, but they're there, they get to the house, and I forget why exactly they're measuring the house, but they start measuring like the outside of the house and then the inside, and the inside, it's like something so small, isn't it? It's like less than an inch difference.
Yeah. I'm like, are you serious? I was like, are you freaking kidding me? How?
So the house, yeah, it's an inch, almost an inch, not even a full inch bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, and it drives Will crazy.
Isn't it like there's like a closet pops up randomly?
That's what happens next. Yeah, because at first they measure it, and they keep measuring it over and over and over. He like goes to the hardware store, he gets like proper measuring equipment, and he cannot figure out where this extra inch is coming from inside the house, because it's like there's no secret rooms, there's like no secret corners. What the hell is this?
He like goes to get professionals. They get the laser that like measures perfectly. Going back to Will, what they move here because he's this award winning, and he's like a star. He's very determined in his like career, but he's kind of like leaving his family behind in his work. And so
he's a workaholic.
Right. And so moving here, the wife's like, we're coming here and we're going to be a family. Like, I'm sorry, we're going to be traditional. But then he uses the house as an excuse to like keep working.
Yeah, because once he finds this little discrepancy, he becomes completely obsessed. They end up going on like a little trip, him and the family. And then when they come back in the master bedroom, all of a sudden is a closet that wasn't there before. To me, it's freaking terrifying. Like, you buy a house and it's all, fine. And then you come back and all of a sudden there's a closet that was not there.
I don't know, if to me, I kind of have the kids' point of view. Because, like, the kids are like, okay, we, like, more space to play. Like, let's go. I'm like, okay, I paid for extra.
I was like, where the F is this closet coming from? Who moved in here when I was gone? That's the thought that I had. Actually, just to clarify, it's not even like close to an inch, but it's a quarter of an inch.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
So that is the subtle difference at first that obsesses Will and causes him to, and then all of a sudden, boop, out pops a random closet.
I know. And it's a slow burn, like on top of like the intellectual chapters, the story that happens. I thought of it as a very slow burn. Yeah. You know,
it takes a bit to get into it. The whole like encyclopedic intellectual kind of setup in the beginning, it's like you get to a point where you're like, oh my god, when is it finally going to kind of start? When is it going to start to get scary? Right. I thought this was like a horror book, like what's happening.
We can talk about like there's the conceptual horror of the house, right? We mentioned earlier, but it almost, we kind of start realizing that it's almost like an animal, this home.
Yeah, it's definitely, it feels alive.
Right.
Especially as the story progresses. So that's the thing. So the kids go and explore this dark closet, right? And doesn't it happen at first that like the kids are playing in there and all of a sudden they like one of the kids can't be found?
Yeah. And they're looking for him or something, but then he comes back.
Like they can hear him, but they can't see him. And so the mom like freaks out because once again, she's this neurotic, like she's very nervous. And she I think we mentioned this, she has a intense fear of enclosed spaces. She's very claustrophobic, and that later comes out later why that is or why that might be or what the likelihood of that is. So she's panicking already, and you know, they can't find the son, and
right,
then he pops up again.
Yeah. Like, knowing the rest of the story, it's amazing that he came back, to be honest.
Yeah, spoiler alert, yeah.
Yeah.
Because then there's all of a sudden a dark hallway that appears where there wasn't one before. And then we find the dark hallway, like, isn't it, like, attached to the living room? Or in the main part of the house?
Yeah, it's like the main part, and it's just one door, and you open it, and it's just black, pitch black.
It's pitch black. It's super long. You can't see the end of it. It's like freezing cold. No light.
No vents.
No draft.
No windows.
Right. Like, nothing. It's just black.
Right.
And of course, Will, our, little protagonist, a little anti-hero, he needs to explore it because he's obsessed. He's an adventurer. He actually, it's really interesting because he wins the Pulitzer Prize for this really tragic photo that he takes in Africa. And this is based on a real photograph that I should look up the name of. But you've likely seen it, and it's a really famous one where there is a African child that is starving, essentially, and there's like a vulture in the background.
Yeah, like the child is collapsed.
Yeah,
and
right.
The vulture.
And completely emaciated, just horrifically sad. And so, yeah, there you see the vulture in the background kind of ready to stalk its prey. And it's a very visceral, scary image. And so in this, I think in real life it's, it's obviously it's a different photographer who won the prize for that. But Will is the one who, in this book, wins the Pulitzer for that. And it's something that we learn haunts him. the fact that he won the prize for this, and it's such a haunting image, so that contributes, I think, to the horror of the book too, just that backdrop of that.
Yeah, and I think he's always chasing that like that prize. Like I have to keep going. Like I have to find my next prize winning photo or visual. I guess in this case video, because when they move into the house, they also like set up a bunch of cameras. He sets up the cameras to like see everyone's like interaction and goings on, and it's described in the book like a manuscript, literally like a play setup, video setup where everyone is. Yeah, he's determined. He was compromising with his family, but I found him a little selfish in the end.
Totally selfish. He's like this, on one hand, he's this unapologetic artist. He has this vision of, and that once again, that adventure spirit where he needs to, he's a journalist as well. So he's a photojournalist. So he has the artistic side, but he needs to find out the root of everything. And so he becomes obsessed. And even though the house and everything, it's meant to be this place where they rekindle the intimacy between them as a couple, him and Karen. And then also, they foster a better relationship with the children because, as we said, he's a workaholic. He's not around. He's obsessed with his work. He finds another avenue to stew his obsession with work. This becomes his new work, like Inez said.
Once the plot keeps going, right, and there's this huge, vast hallway that he like goes into a little bit, but then Karen stops him. Mm-hmm. And I want to get your take on Karen. How do you feel about her?
It's really hard for me to say. She's definitely the emotional center of the book. But I found her to be kind of annoying. She's an actress, and she's described as being extremely beautiful. She has this smile that lights up a room, and she has this presence. Her lack of emotional regulation makes her annoying to me. Once again, she's just so neurotic. I wanted her to be stronger.
Yeah, same. For real, like... she tries to make sense of the house. Like she starts using like feng shui and putting little deities in like specific places to...
She freaks the F out.
Right.
She's like, what is this house? Where do we came here and now this is like gonna ruin our life. Yeah, like there's a feng shui everywhere.
Yeah. She was a weaker character, but she like stops Will from like going further in the hallway. Like the hallway's really the hole on where everything is kind of gonna come to a head. And she's like, no, you can't go in there, or I'm taking the kids and leaving. She like threatens him.
Yeah, she's like, if you go and explore that once again, we're out of here, buddy.
Right.
Bye. And he's like, damn, I can't do this. I better call someone else that can do it for me, though.
Right. He like hires a team to come in. And it's like, bro, okay.
Well, she ends up being like, all right, well, what am I going to do? He is who he is, and he's going to do what he's going to do, and it's better that it's not him. So she kind of accepts it, but she's very human. I think, we mentioned her claustrophobia. We learn later on that she has a very difficult history from her childhood that is not explicitly mentioned, but there's definitely some mention of possible abuse that happened, potential sexual abuse that happened against her. So spoiler alert there. Well, you should all know, guys, that like all of our book reviews are spoiler alert at this point. So if you're not planning on reading the book, keep listening. But if you are, you should stop right there. I won't say more than that. But she's extremely human because her trauma really dictates all of her responses throughout the whole book.
You can't blame her for it, but...
Yeah. And she's also married to this guy who, he has his visions and his drives, and he kind of is, like very unapologetic about it, and he's going to do whatever he wants.
Yeah. And I think, hiring the group, and like doing construction and measuring the house too, he's totally different from his twin brother. who is like very humble, and they haven't talked for years, and so their differences like really made them disconnected, and so this house kind of brings family together, not like through the wife and the children, but also through his brother.
And we'll talk a little bit more about him in a bit because he comes a little bit later. But just to kind of tie up about Will, so we can move on then to Johnny, because once again, we're going to have to jump back and forth, and bear with us here because this is how the book is. But Will, it's clear that he is like the tragic hero. It's clear from the beginning that he sees the house as something he needs to conquer and figure out. He's, once again, obsessed. And so he needs to measure everything. He needs to document everything. And we later eventually learn that this mindset is what almost completely destroys him. I think it's a really good kind of show of hubris, human hubris. Kind of the idea of, like the Greek myth of Icarus with, he makes the wings out of paper and
flies too close to the sun.
Yep, flies too close to the sun. Because of hubris, and the wings end up melting, and then he falls and dies. So I definitely think that that's the point of Will's character, is to show that human pride and that aspect of us that doesn't care what the consequences are. We just need to do whatever we, in the moment. Will's obsession is the point.
It definitely brings the story along. I think it is the point, because otherwise, if it's like, I could argue that even if he wasn't obsessed with like the house, if they like locked up the hallway door and just barred it and they just try to go on about their lives, I think the house, since it's alive, it would start messing other things up. I mean, it made another closet. It'll like, I don't know, make the kitchen smaller and make you angry because you don't have room to cook.
And that's the thing, right, that we end up figuring out, is that the hallway keeps changing. So it's not that it just pops up and it's just this dark hallway. Right. We learned that it's a completely changing, it rearranges itself. And as people start to explore it, it seems to react to the people inside of it. Yeah.
And you see that especially the group that Will hires, they like go insane. I love that part. That was some of my favorite parts.
Yeah, that's I would say definitely the climax of the story, when the final team is like, all right, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. We're gonna reach the end. We're gonna see how far this goes, what this is all about. Right. And so before we get there, kind of the resolution.
Johnny.
What do you think about Johnny? Here's Johnny.
I enjoy Johnny. In the beginning of the book, it kind of jumps around to like what he's dealing with, and like him being in love with a prostitute, and like his work at that tattoo shop, and him and his best friend goes on like these little adventures, and I'm kind of like, bro, you're like low-key kind of pathetic, and I think that's part of the point. I'm like, okay, he's having fun, but as it gets deeper and as the manuscripts are like affecting him, it gives this idea, like, is it the manuscripts affecting, or is it his own psyche? Is he doing it himself? Which is like, I think so. It was part of the point to set up that character that way. Right.
Yeah, I think Johnny's super endearing.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone will agree with that. I think a lot of people think that he's a dirtbag, which he kind of is, but he's like a hopeless romantic. He falls in love quite easily. He's very promiscuous. He loves to sleep around. He is really all over the place. He's this tattoo shop apprentice, so he doesn't even work like as a tattoo artist. He's trying to he's like interning almost. He like cleans the stations and stocks things, and he doesn't really get along with his boss. His boss talks smack to him constantly, and they give each other crap all the time. And yeah, Johnny has this sidekick, his BFF, who always ends up calling on him. They end up going to bars and picking up girls together, telling like very outlandish and usually fake stories to get the attention of these girls. He's a very interesting, funny character. He's funny to me. I think he's very funny. Yeah, I was very amused reading his narration.
Right, I enjoyed his chapters more than Zampano's. Zampano's.
Zampano.
I enjoyed.
Yeah, because Zampano is like you're reading this encyclopedia, and then Johnny chimes in. He's like, "What the hell is this?
Right.
Like, what the f?" Like, yeah, I'm cleaning it up quite a bit. But
right, yeah. Which it makes him endearing. Like, I enjoyed reading what he had to say. Maybe low-key sexism? I don't know. His promiscuity, I was just
he's definitely chauvinistic, I think. There's, definitely aspects of chauvinism there. But you can tell that he also has a past, It's an interesting theme, this, like, how our trauma from our past dictates our future and our future responses, I think, as people, as characters. Johnny starts adding his own footnotes to the manuscript. So as he's compiling this and, writing his own commentary, he's trying to figure out, first of all, if this is even real, what this even is as the story's going on. And you as the reader, too, the third or fourth reader, whatever, have the same questions. You're like, what is this? Like, is this real? Is it not? And there's footnotes, like, as we mentioned. So you go to the bottom, there's, like, a little asterisk. You go to the bottom of the page. And then sometimes you have to flip back to the end of the book.
Yeah, like
there's like a whole index. Yeah, I mean, it's like almost every page has footnotes, if not every page. Yeah. So be prepared for that. That's the main kind of part of the book. And so his footnotes, they start mainly as commentary, but then they start to turn into confession, right? And we start to learn more and more about him. But yeah, and Inez mentioned this, it starts to ruin his life, this book.
I know. It's almost like a Venn diagram, and you're like, okay, this book, like, what killed Zampano? Is it, like, affecting Johnny? Like, is it gonna come and, like, get him? But then it's like you start learning more about Johnny, and you're like, he needs to go see a therapist. Like, I think he's making it up himself. Like, he's messed up.
This boy needs medication.
I know. And so, like, you're not clear, and he becomes this, like, melds. He becomes obsessed with the Navidson records as well, and you can't determine, like, what is making him be this way.
He eventually starts to get as obsessed as Will in his own way. He ends up not wanting to be social anymore. He ends up missing work because he wants to just keep reading this book and cross-referencing and compiling. And he starts to get very, like, I don't want to say schizophrenic, but it feels...
I would say so. Yes, schizophrenic.
Not to be disrespectful to those who suffer from schizophrenia, but...
Right.
But it to me felt like as if being almost in the inner workings of a mind that is potentially schizophrenic, or it just fractured, let's say, like a very fractured.
Right. Well, there's a part in the book where he has hallucinations, and there's a part in the book where he's becoming reclusive, right? And he doesn't want to go outside. He's like, whenever he reaches for his doorknob, he's so scared. He feels so much fear within himself. But at one point, he does go outside. He opens the door. He's walking outside. And at first, I was like, is this really happening? Because he starts describing a car just, like, going full force at him. And, like, him getting hit and, like, bleeding and all of it. And then he cuts to it. He was like, oh, I was just thinking about it. I was just imagining that. But it feels so real, and you're like, did this actually happen? So his mind is everywhere.
He starts having, like, these episodes, right? Like, where he thinks that something's attacking him, and there's, like, that scene in, like, the tattoo shop where he's, like, going to the stocking room, and something attacks him.
Right.
and attacks the like back of his body, and he feels scratches, and
there's a little scratch on the back of his neck, so it's like,
yeah, so you're constantly questioning what is real and what isn't. I mean, from the start of the book throughout. And as Johnny keeps narrating, and as he starts to fall into what's clearly this like descent into insanity.
Yeah, he's getting evicted. He like
he stops paying his bills.
Right, he gets a gun. He gets all the records, puts them in the car. He lives out of his car.
Yeah, loses the electricity, gets shut off. He has like a candle that he starts working next to. Loses his freaking job at the tattoo shop.
Yeah. Even like the people or like the women he was seeing, or like the one that was that he was in love with, like comes by and is like,
Thumper.
Okay? Thumper. Yeah.
He calls her Thumper. You'll find out why. There's, those Bambi lovers out there.
Doesn't even know her real name. Like,
no, geez. Yeah, he's like, he admits it. He's like, I don't even know her real name.
God.
Johnny's a mess.
Yeah.
But I like him for it. He's a very real character. And especially, I've lived in LA now for about 15 years. It's very real LA. And like, not that I have my shit together, just to be clear.
No one does. But, and like, it's not just him descending into madness. Like, when you start learning more about his background and like little instances that kind of have messed with his mentality, like, remember that part where he like goes on a date with this woman, and he's like, something feels weird with this lady. Like, I don't know what, but something feels off. And they leave the bar, and I don't know if they were gonna like go together. I think she's gonna drive him back to his place, and they see this dog in the parking lot, and it's like this mangy, small, like hopeless dog, and he's like, oh my god, like, let me take care of it, like, I'm gonna take it back to my place. And then she's like, oh no, I have the perfect area, I have a yard, I have a perfect place, I love dogs. And so he's like, okay, like, I live in an apartment, if you have space for it, he deserves more space. But she drives Johnny back to his apartment with the dog, and then it still feels weird, so he's like, I'm not gonna invite you up, later, peace. And then she's like, okay. And he gets out of the car, they say goodbye, she's driving down the street, and he just hears this like thump, this like loud sound.
Yeah.
And he sees her throw the dog onto the curb and keep driving. And I'm like, that would mess me up mentally. I'm like, I'm not dating anymore.
No, and that's, really the book, instead of it being this like outwardly gory tale where there's just like blood and gore and killing, it's very psychologically effed up.
Right.
So, like, even, like, adding that whole, like, scene with the dog, you're just, like, you feel things that you're, like, oh, like, ugly.
Right.
Ugly,
Horrific. So, and it just builds up. So, all of these little things are, like, building up.
And as Johnny gets crazier and crazier, the book starts reading crazier and crazier. And that's where you start to have to read it upside down and start turning it all around, because they're, as mentioned, when we get, it crosses back and forth. So constantly it's crossing back and forth between all of the narrators. Johnny has his own font. Zampano has his own font. So who's kind of like talking. But when we are like back in the Navidson record, Will hires this like really professional team to go and scout the whole inside of this hallway. And because what we didn't mention is not only is this a hallway, but as they get deeper into the hallway, it turns into like all these rooms. There's like rooms that are like the size of like great halls. They're like, gigantic. I'm talking about like 5-10 stories high.
Bro, it's like, it's so big that and no lights that you can't see the ceiling. Like, it's so dark you can't even see it with their flashlights.
And that's the thing. Yeah, you don't know. You don't even know. You can just, they kind of like try and like throw things to see how big it is, but you never really know. You can just kind of have a feel for it. And that's part of the terrifying aspect of this, because, and then as we said, it keeps changing.
Right. And they're like, so the team goes in, have the glowing arrows, like we went this way, and like the chalk, but
they're doing markings.
Right. And they're like using yarn like tied to rope tied to themselves to the entrance of the door. But the team goes in and they get supplies for like a week.
Yeah. Like they're like, we're gonna camp out in this thing, whatever it is.
So it takes like a week for them to go in, and it's so massive, and there's no heating. It's like frigid. It's cold as F because there's like no light, no ventilation.
It's like literally like entering the void.
Right. Except there's like walls and you see a door multiple times.
Do you think the house is like what there was before there was like the universe? Do you think it's like a part, I don't know, like a dimensional entrance into the actual eternal void?
I think it's a beast that has its whole universe void within itself.
So you think it's more of like an entity?
Yeah, like a esoteric entity that has space and time manipulation. Well, was it the first time they go in, but the team notices there's noises. There's like a growl.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that adds to the terror. Yeah, there's like there's random growls and noises that they hear.
And at first I thought it was like, okay, since the house is like moving and manipulating, is it like the hallways that are moving that makes the growl?
Me too. Which we still don't really know.
Right.
It could be.
It could be, but then towards the end of the second expedition, like there's one of the arrows that they put up, there's like claw marks. Like the entity that like attacked Johnny at the tattoo shop that like scratches him in the back of the neck. So it's like,
and Zampano has those claw marks at his scene of death, if you recall.
So is it like the house? Is there a beast? Like a physical beast?
That's the question.
Is it both?
I think, well, okay, so I think there's a big clue in that the hallway in the inside of the house changes based on each person that's in it.
Right, yeah.
Because you kind of get the feel that those who are feeling more terror get messed with more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The guys they hire, they're all adventurers. They're all like gung-ho, like, yeah, let's climb this mountain.
Young guys. And then there's a main guy who's like the leader. He's like this Indiana Jones figure who's like kind of old, and there's the guy who's like in a wheelchair.
Oh yeah. And then the young assistant.
2 young assistants. Many are injured or just full out killed when they go in there.
Because the leader of the group is like, I want a challenge. I want it to be scary. I want it to be like the biggest thing I've accomplished. And so it gets scary for them big time.
Well, because when they get through all these like huge major rooms that we mentioned, these like huge halls and like multiple story high rooms, they get to a staircase. And they're like, we need to reach the bottom of the staircase, because the first time, or one of the first times they go in there, they start going down the stairs and it just doesn't end. They just keep going and going. And I think at one point it says like they go down for like 6 miles or something crazy.
Yeah, they have to like camp out on the stairs.
They camp out on the stairs, and that's why, like we mentioned, they have these they have food and rations for a week.
Yeah.
They have like Cliff Bars with them, like full on like camelbacks, like
right,
full climbing equipment. And we find out what's needed, and it's not even enough.
I know, because then they have to go back. They have to follow their trail back to like recoup and be like, okay, we need an even bigger stash to go further. Like, it's so vast that they brought walkie-talkies with them, and the walkie-talkies, they stop working.
Right,
after a
because they're
certain
trying
point.
to communicate with the people still inside the house.
Right.
So, like, Will and Karen and...
Yeah, they're like the home station, like talking
Mm-hmm.
to the group.
Because, reminder, Karen's like, Will, you ain't going in there, buddy.
Yeah.
You
But
can
then-
supervise, but you are not going in there.
The expedition group, the leader he starts going insane. He's like, you guys are holding me back. Like, the other guys are like, we need to go back because we don't have enough rations. Like, our batteries are dying. We don't have enough water. But the guy is like, no, the leader is like, no, you guys are holding me back.
He's like,
F
don't be a
you."
sissy.
Right. And so he separates himself from the group.
Yeah, he goes off on his own, yeah. Because he's like, peace, I'm going to, you guys obviously can't handle it.
Right.
I'm going to go figure this out. They're going to name monuments after me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Hubris.
I know.
It's very interesting to me. I'm like thinking about this as we're talking. The parallel between this guy, the main adventure guy, and Will.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the people who try to master the house or conquer the house are the ones who end up getting destroyed by it.
Right. Yeah.
So the house cannot be conquered. I mean, just to be clear. Like, the people who are more, like, curious about it, and, I feel like it's nicer to them if the house is an entity.
Right.
But once again, is it that it's an entity, or is it that it's just a mirror? Is the house just, like, mirroring the inner psyches of these people? Which I think could be. I don't know. I feel like in general the answers end up being it could be.
It could be, right. Like, you could argue both sides.
That's just that's the book. It could be.
Could be, who knows?
That's why it's so infuriating, but to me brilliant. Like,
right. Yeah.
you were on
Open-ended.
this freaking trip with each of the narrators. Like, you're in there with Johnny descending into madness, and then Johnny goes back and, like, starts to tell you his life story, which is really messed up. He has a really difficult childhood, like, really sad. I won't get too much into it, but his dad, like, dies, and it causes his mom to essentially go insane. He ends up, like, going from, like, foster homes and like, an orphanage, and...
Yeah. I want to talk about Johnny's story, how it ends.
Yeah,
it's really,
please do.
It's really impactful, but I think the Navison Records ends technically in the book, and then we have the ending of, like, Johnny's story. No.
So should we? Well, just to kind of finish up with this team being in the book,
Right.
and then I'll let you guys get into, like, Johnny's end. So the void itself that they're exploring, they refer to it a lot as the labyrinth. And that theme also prevails throughout. And as you're reading, as the main theme is throughout the book, that's really when, like, you start turning the book upside down, and
Yeah.
the structure of the void and the labyrinth is like the structure of the book. So you start seeing
The bottom of the staircase,
Right. You start, like, there's, like, swirls, and it's so cool. You start to, it's very, it's very visceral. I love that part of it. It's so interesting. And so once again, this inside, it defies physics and geometry, constantly rearranging itself, and some people end up disappearing entirely. And Tom is the twin. We'll just mention Tom quickly without going too much into it, because I don't know if he's as important to the book. He's just really kind of almost this emotional support character to me. What do you think?
Yeah, he's like, he supports Will, and it's just another, I don't know, a character to be emotionally connected with, to be like, okay, I hope things go well.
And it's important to note that they're identical twins.
Yeah.
So they, at one point, were like, I think the whole point is to say that at one point they're the same or similar, but then they grow very much apart, because Will is this, like, successful photojournalist, and Tom, his twin, it's more like this blue collar kind of chill guy. He's a stoner.
Yeah.
He's, like, constantly going to take breaks to go smoke out back.
Yeah.
Will is quite a bit more serious.
Right.
But Tom like loves to play with the kids. He's like the fun uncle, and he's like the, you know, chummy, good feeling guy, and you can't help but love him. He like constantly tells jokes. He's like the comic relief.
Right. Well, so when the expedition groups like either dies or disperses, and I won't give too much detail, but is no longer working, the next expedition is with Tom and Will.
Mm-hmm.
Like we need to go find the others and like help them, bring them back, save them.
Yeah,
but,
because they can't come back. That's right. They're like
right.
stuck in there.
Yeah. And you got this crazy leader adventure guy going around with a gun, like.
Yeah, because once again, he loses his mind in there.
Right. But
he starts, it's like his own mind starts to attack him and like makes him believe that he needs to do this. And then he starts believing certain things about his team, that they're out to get him. And
yeah,
he loses it too.
And so like going back to what you're saying, like the house being a mirror, like it's so bad for the expedition because they're like adventurers. But then you have Tom come in and he's like, I don't want to go too far. Like I'll camp out at the top of the staircase and
keep watch.
And keep watch. And so you read Tom's like his interactions with Karen and like trying to make light of it, and like he hears the growls down the hallway and is like, okay, that's you, Mr. Monster, and kind of like personifying it in this sweet way.
Yeah, you know? Like he jokes around, like he uses his humor to help make himself feel better, but you can also then, it like makes I think it makes it easier for Tom to like, the house shows that it's sweeter to him because of his like attitude towards it, I think. Yeah.
But
well, I don't want to completely spoil what happens at the end, I don't think. At least not like what happens with the adventurers. Well, we'll just say that Tom doesn't make it. I don't want to go into the full details of how that happens, and some of the team doesn't make it back.
Will almost doesn't make it.
Will almost doesn't make it because he ends up finally deciding, yeah, I'm going to go and try and figure out what the heck.
Almost, but he almost but doesn't make it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It pretty much like the house like spits Will out. He ends up like at the almost like what we would consider to be the end, but he's like kind of dangling in the void.
Yeah.
And he accepts that he's going to die. He's like, well, I guess this is it then.
Because like
there's nowhere else to go.
Right. It's cold as heck. You're going to get frostbite in there. He doesn't have any more rations or like a candle or anything. He almost becomes like this idea just floating in this void.
Yeah, and that's actually, I found it really, really fascinating because this is something I've thought about a lot in the past, that like if we didn't have our five senses, would we even be aware that we exist, right?
Yeah.
And so this is really what the house shows, is that when he's in this space, he has to like go through this crawl space. He like finally like is like going deeper and deeper and deeper, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. He's like army crawling at one point, and then he's like in this little tiny thing, and he's realizing he's like dangling, right? And there's like this huge fall. And then he starts falling, but then he doesn't even know that he's falling anymore. He's just suspended.
It's desensitized. Yeah.
And he can't see, once again, dark. There's no sound. He can't touch anything. Can't taste, can't smell, nothing.
Yeah.
And he starts to almost like become part of the void. I always thought, yeah, if it weren't for our senses, like, even though there's no way to know that you exist. You have to start to lose your mind.
Yeah, he does. He does lose his mind while he's in there.
There's nothing to possess the mind anymore.
Or nothing to ground it.
Right. It's just, yeah, you just become of it. So anyways, I think it's fucking brilliant. The whole thing. I do. I really do. So anyways, just to give a little, not like a, the family ends up reuniting. Okay, so Will gets spit out, as we said, but nothing is ever really explained because
Will screws up. He gets a second chance and he screws it up.
Yeah, they're like, you can tell that the relationship with him and Karen, it's never going to be the same. The kids are like traumatized. We didn't even talk about like the kids, but the kids end up getting changed by the house as things go on too. They start getting like aloof.
And they had like pets and stuff too. That's what makes me also think the house is like an animal or like a beast, because the animals start running out of the house. Like they don't want to be inside the house. Either they sense something, but
that's a good point. Something
makes me think that it doesn't want other animals within itself speaking about the house,
Yeah. And so, essentially, Will's story, kind of ends without a true explanation of what happens, because essentially the house vanishes. It just, poof, it's just gone, and they can't figure it out. And so then I'll let you, Inez, get into this. Johnny decides that he's going to go and find the house. He wants to go find the house. He's like, well, I need to figure out for myself if this is a real thing or not. And so this is when we start to learn about Johnny's past and childhood.
Right.
So go ahead.
We finish the story with him, and then as Johnny is like living out of his car, not really eating, he has this whole chapter where he's like, oh yeah, I think things have gone really bad. I ran into an old friend and I stayed with them, and they're a doctor and they let me live there for a long time, and I got better, and finally after like a couple of years I left and I'm all better and I'm working at this place. I have an apartment. And in the next chapter, like journal entry, he's like, psych.
He's like, just kidding.
I'm messed up.
Still left up.
Yeah.
And I gotta admit, I was like, oh, good for Johnny.
But when he did that, I was like, okay, I like you. You're right. It's like the endearment. I thought he has a sense of humor.
Definitely. But, he's funny as F to me.
He has like hallucinations. He's still trying to like research about the house, but also like at one point he like tries to give it up. He's like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I don't know if it's real or not, but he like throws away the records. It's probably fake. And then he like goes to a bar and this live band is playing, and they're like, this song is about this book that we found, and it's about the house. And then he goes and talks to the band. You don't know if it's real. And then like it just cuts to his next journal entry. He starts just descending, and he looks for the house. He doesn't end up finding. I think that's how we find out that it just like collapsed within itself. No, like the house isn't there anymore.
Yeah, he's not able to find it. It just doesn't exist.
And so he just descends. He descends further in his mind, right?
Yeah. And it's important to point out that like as then he's like recollecting his whole past and childhood, we learn that his mom has a history of mental illness.
Right. And she is actually sent to an asylum for her mental well-being, and she and Johnny actually correspond while she's there. And he writes in the back of the book, there's like her letters to him. We don't see his letters to her, but
right. And just a reminder, she's in the asylum because Johnny's dad, who, is like her beloved husband, he dies very suddenly. There's like a horrific accident. He's like a pilot. And he ends up dying very suddenly. And this causes the mom to like lose it pretty much. And so they send her to the psychiatric hospital. And so then that's why we find out that Johnny is essentially orphaned.
She goes, because it's the dad who sends her. She goes crazy before that.
Ooh, okay.
The dad sends her because he comes home one day and...
Oh, right.
Right? Should I spoil or should I... I'll keep
secret. At this point, this is going to be a spoiler because then Inez is she deciphered a very special letter in the back of the book, which I'm excited to hear because I didn't do the work. She did the work, and so I'm excited to hear. So, go ahead.
I forgot how I deciphered it. I think it's like the capital letters or something. I forget. You'll figure it out. She like sends a letter and she's like, Johnny, I miss you. Like, I love you. Like, please write to me. You can see her anxiety. Like, when he doesn't write to her for like
hold on, just
week.
really quickly. Because it starts as like when Johnny's like a little boy still. He's
right.
just to make a note. So like when when she gets sent away, he's still like a kid. And you could tell he's like very smart. And one of the things that I found really interesting is that the mom is clearly very intelligent herself. Like she is like a genius of some kind of a savant, because she speaks multiple languages and she's referencing these really like intellectual things.
Yeah.
But yeah, as it progresses, her letters get more and more erratic and crazier too.
Right. She like shows this unhealthy attachment to Johnny, like as he's getting old, and he's like talking to her. I think he visits her a couple times, but she's like more urgent, more erratic, and she sends a letter like, please, I will send you this. The code is to read like the second word of every sentence because they're watching me. The caretakers are watching me, like, and they're reading our letters, so I can't be so out there. But her next letter is in code, and I write this, and so I don't know how long they haven't talked to each other, but this is, I don't know if she dies, but this is towards the end. And
yeah, she ends up killing herself.
Right. And I think this explains why. So some of the letters, I'm not sure if I decoded it right, but there's some that don't make sense, but you'll get the gist of it.
And by the way, I'm very excited for this because I never deciphered this, so this is like new to me. So I'm very excited to hear this.
Right. Here we go. They have found a way to break me. Rape a 56-year-old bag of bones. There is no worse, and don't believe otherwise. The attendants do it. Others do it. Not every day, not every week, maybe not even every month, but they do it. Someone I'd know always comes. When it's dark, late, I've learned not to scream. Screaming gave me a hope, and where add hope is shattered hope. Any hope is shattered hope. Think of your Haitian. It is far saner to choose rape than shattered hope. So I submit and I drift. I let caprice and certain degrees of reassociation to take me away. Sometimes I'm still away, long after it's done, after he's gone, the stranger, the attendant, the custodian, the janitor, cleaning man, waiting man, dirt man, the night, dying up after him. I'm in hell, giving in to heaven, where I sometimes think of your beautiful father with his dreamy wings, and only the end. I allow myself to cry, not because your mother was raped again, but because she loved so much, what she could never have been allowed to keep. Such a silly girl. You must save me, Johnny. In the name of your father, I must escape this place or I will die.
Whew.
It's intense.
That's really intense. I just got the chills.
Yeah. It's horrific. I mean, we know that inmates well, prison inmates and people who are in mental health hospitals, they aren't treated right.
Yeah.
And
Ugh.
so I wouldn't be surprised if this was a true story, what she's describing.
Right. Well, that's the thing that was I was thinking of. I'm like, I wonder if this is real or not, because you get the sense that she has some kind of also like fractured mind situation, because she's very erratic in her letters to Johnny. Excuse me. And she goes like really back and forth, and on one hand she starts to lose it and she gets really emotional and upset, and then she like composes herself again and apologizes, and she's like, oh no, that's not what happened, you know. So then you're also questioning yourself through her letters, what's real or what's not. And so then when you read her letters, because once again, this is in the index, this is in the back of the book, this is like, there's like a footnote in one of the pages where it's like, oh, read these letters if you want to get a better idea of like Johnny's background. So you don't, you know, technically if you don't care, you don't have to, might not know. But I think the idea is that, you know, you do go back and find out. Wow. Thanks for deciphering all that. I think that's a really important part. I wish I had done the work now, but I'm glad that.
No, yeah. It was intense.
So essentially, the book closes without any answers. I think that's really what the end is, because then when we essentially get to the end of it, we realize that the whole thing is kind of nonsense. And the whole thing is, in my opinion, a reflection of Johnny's insanity.
Yeah. Which
I think started, you know, his mom planted kind of that seed in his childhood. Yeah. Planted that seed. And so even his narration ends very ambiguously. So he might have escaped madness. He might have rewritten reality. And he might be dead. We don't know.
Towards the end, there's a footnote that kind of says what happens to Johnny. Not specifically, but like, I think one of his lovers like writes to his best friend or something, or like writes and is like, hey, do you know what happened to Johnny?
She writes to the editors. Who end up publishing this whole thing with Johnny's footnotes.
Right. And they're like, do you know what happened to him? Like, he's missing. And it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, he's just gone. He goes poof like the house.
Yeah, I know. So it's like everything that the house touches is just like disperses.
Well, and so here's the thing. So that's to me why I think, part of why I think it's so genius is because you can make your own conclusions about what happens to Johnny, what the house is, what happens to Will at the end. And really, we see this time and time again, is that the common theme really ends up being like trauma and the inheritance of pain, right? Yeah. And how that trauma affects us, how it affects our worldview, our perspective.
Right.
The unreliability of memory in general and narrative. And that even through like a voice like Zampano, who has this authoritative encyclopedic voice, it still is BS.
Yeah.
Because that's what we end up finding out. It's BS. He's just bleh.
Yeah.
So yeah, especially as the book witches, there's just a lot of masculinity.
Oh, yeah.
In this book, which I think is important to point out too. The obsession, like that hubris is very male, I have to tell you.
I know.
Not saying women don't have hubris, okay? I'm not saying we don't. But I feel like that's kind of what the book is alluding to, is that male hubris.
Right.
Well, because go ahead, sorry.
No, the main female character, she's, I don't know, we thought of her as kind of like a weaker character, and she is scared of the house, and it's kind of, it goes into her backstory, and she, I don't know, learning about Karen's backstory, I was just kind of like, okay, I felt like she was more shallow. So like on a feminine kind of topic, like this is a very masculine heavy book, I guess, with the hubris and the obsession and determination.
Well, and on that note, it's important to note that, like we mentioned this already before, but the people who try to master the house are destroyed by it. Karen Green, she ends up getting out. She ends up surviving. She ends up, moving on. We know for sure that she survives and that her kids survive. And so the idea then becomes that the person who prioritizes love and connection, which is her thing, she gets out. So I think that's a message too there.
That's true.
So, and then, of course, we have like space as metaphor, just the void of the house, depression, mental illness, really important topics, I think, especially now, today's world, especially in our lovely country, the United States of America. I think that there is still really just so little support in the realm of mental illness. Mental health is really on the back burner in general of what seems to be important to, the leaders of this country. And
I would almost say that mental illness is encouraged in this country.
Yeah, good point.
Ugh. But going back to your space as metaphor, I'm almost also thinking like with Will and his need to find his award-winning picture again, like he has this emptiness within him that he's always searching for, and like when he's finally in the house in that space, it's like it allows him to be whole. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, like when he experiences that final almost like emptiness, he feels.
Yeah, and like being a mirror too, it's like it mirrored his emptiness feeling as he is ripped away from all of his senses.
That's a really good point. And so anyways, I mean, we could we could go on and on. I think that this is a really interesting book, and I think that you all should read it to get your own. I got it from my brother for Yule, so I hope if you're listening, Luke, you read this because it's a really freaking interesting book, and most people I don't think have read anything like this.
I've never read something with so many layers and like complexity.
Yeah.
And visual. The visuals are the best.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. So anyway, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think reading this book, overall I enjoyed reading this book.
What's your rating out of 5? You can do like half stars too.
That first part really hit me hard in a bad way. I'm gonna say 3.5 out of 5.
Okay, that's still better than that's liked it more than hated it, right?
I did enjoy it more.
I'll say 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
I really loved it. I don't know if there's any book that really exists that I can give like a full 5 to. I mean, this is like maybe, okay, I'll even say maybe 4.75. It's hard to... The only reason I kind of want to linger on 4.5 is because I sometimes like that feel-good part of the book, something that, like the beauty of like poetry or something, and this doesn't have that. It leaves you with more questions than answers, and so, but at the same time, it is very interesting, and I think, brilliant in how the author... I mean, I think the author has to be some kind of frickin' savant himself to even be able to put together this work. I don't know how the heck you would... I don't know. Like, we should have looked up what his process was, because damn.
I think what really ties in the vibes for me from this book is that... so my phone listened to me and started, like, recommending the subreddit for House of Leaves.
Oh, okay.
And people would post... being like, oh my god, I'm watching House, and the main doctor is reading House of Leaves, and I don't know if it's because of the word, but he's a very intellectual character and like snobby in that way, so I don't know if that applies. It's a high-end read, definitely.
It is. It's not, we said this, not for the faint of heart. if you are more into like easier reads, I wouldn't recommend this.
Right.
It's definitely not a book that you should read like if you haven't read for a while and you're like, I want to get back into reading. This is what I'm going to start
No,
with.
it's not gonna you're not gonna read then. Oh my god.
But if you're in the mood for like a something that'll squeeze your brain and give you a real cerebral experience, then this is your book.
Right, yeah. No, it was good. I'm glad I read it.
Me too.
Thank you. Alex sent it to me, and she's like, oh my god, read this book. I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. And then I get in the mail, and I'm like, this is a Bible. What?
I was like, you're going to read this whether you like it or not.
I
It's too
know.
interesting not to. Oh my god, we have to do an episode on this.
Right. Awesome. I mean, obviously, there's not like a sequel or anything, but
I don't know if I'm not going to be ready to read another one of his works for a while. I'll say that. Even as much as I loved it, I'm like, you know, like with Stephen King, I started reading his books. I'm like, I want to read the next one and the next one. This one, I'm like, ooh, I need a bit of a breather. So on that note, thank you so much for listening, all of our dedicated subscribers, whether you're new here or you're old here or you've been around. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. We appreciate all the support. Please like and subscribe. So you can always be in the know of when new episodes come out. We're going to gear it up a little bit more now that we're into the new year, right?
Right. I know. And then please encourage your family, your friends to read books too. Like if it's not the books that we read, we really highly suggest just reading in general is important.
Yeah, because you know what? It makes you think about human nature and the nature of the world. And I think it forces you to think about things that eventually make you a better person because you're having those internal, thoughts of...
Right.
It gives you just a different perspective. And that's, to me, like one of the reasons why I studied what I studied in school, literature, and why I think it's so important. And yeah, we're unfortunately coming in a place in our world and generation where reading is becoming less and less popular. So,
or just like inaccessible, right?
Yeah. So another reminder, and I know Inez fully supports this message, please support your local public libraries.
Please.
If you do not have a library card, it is free. Please go out and get one.
And there's more things you can get at the library than books. It's full of resources. Please look into library of
there's
things.
So much. That's right. And, and I know that, it's not always the most preferred. We do prefer physical books from the libraries, but if you have an e-reader and you can get an app and even borrow e-books through the library app. So if you didn't know that was an option, if you're just like, I really don't want to go to the library, you don't have to physically go there. So there's still options for you. And
even if you don't have an e-reader, you can read on your laptop, and libraries pay a monthly phone. Yeah, on your phone, they pay a monthly subscription to have that book on file, that ebook. So it can help the library help their monthly subscription.
Yeah. So
but it's free
once again,
for you. Yeah.
Once again, please follow us on anywhere you get your podcasts. On YouTube, we are at Book Witches Podcast. Mm-hmm. Same goes for everywhere else on social media as well. So, and please let us know what you think. If you've read the book, if you want to read the book, or if you have any questions, we're always happy to keep the conversation going.
Yes.
So we hope to hear from you.
Thank you, everyone. We love you. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Bye, everybody. Until
Bye.
next time.